How is credit card interest calculated? This is a question that often people ask because sometimes it's harder to determine how credit card interest is calculated due to the fact that it runs a little different than the student loans, personal loans, mortgages, things of that nature. So hopefully I can paint a picture using an example in a presentation that we know as the credit catastrophe. This is based on a credit card, so it's the credit card catastrophe, and it's going to be exaggerated a little bit, but I really just want to drive the point home of the reason you should be disciplined when it comes to using credit card, but also give you an understanding of how credit card interest is calculated. So I don't want the video to be too long, so that being said, let's dive in, shall we? All right, now, we're filling this blank along the way, but the credit catastrophe, interest is the blank you pay for the right to own something in blank that you cannot blank. If you think you understand and know what that is before the video is over, put it in the comments. Don't cheat, don't skip, fast forward. And if you want access to the free credit class where you can understand how credit works as a whole and better your credit, be sure to click the available link below so you can get access to the free credit class amongst other tools and resources that can help you better your credit. Now, in this example, this person owes $5,000 on their credit card. So $5,000 is kind of a normal number that people may have on their credit card, but we want to show you the potency of credit cards based on how they're calculated. So number one, you see where it says you owe, and that person owes $5,000. So let's say that that person pays $100 a month. So let's say that that's basically their minimum payment that they have to pay, $100 a month, which is not, too far-fetched. That's pretty, close to what they may be paying if they have a $5,000 balance, give or take. So let's say that that person has an interest rate of 21%, which is not uncommon for credit cards. We have credit cards that run higher. Our personal credit cards, one is like a 10%, which is better than most. We have another one that may be like 16%, but 21% is not uncommon, especially after that intro rate fades away. So just want to give you an example of something that is pretty common in many cases that we come across. So the monthly interest rate, if you take that 21% and you divide it by 12, what you're left with is 0.0175%. And you can do this with any interest rate. So what you would do if your interest rate is different, you would change it based on what your interest rate is, divided by 12, which represents months, because it's 12 months in a year, so you can understand how much you're being charged on a monthly interest rate level. So that plugs right into that section there. And then next up, your interest payment is what you really have to pay attention to, because this is how it works. That 0.0175 times the $5,000 is $87.50. Why is that important? Because if they're paying $100 a month, you got to understand that not all of that is going to the principal. A portion of that is going to the interest. And here's what I mean. So your principal payment is actually $12.50. So every month you're paying $100. $12.50 of it is actually going towards the debt to pay it off. The other $87.50 is going towards interest. In other words, that's what's going towards making the lender rich. So that's something to make note of, because when people understand that, they may say, oh no, I need to change something about this. They need to make an extra payment. Like, it prompts me to just want to make sure we get our utilization where we want it, keep it where we want it, because I see how somebody else is getting wealthy off of our money if we're not careful, because only a portion of it is going towards principal, but the majority of it, the bulk of it, is going towards making the banks rich, simply put. So the reality is this: a $5,000 credit card balance, if that person continues to pay that minimum payment month after month after month, and only $12.50 is going towards actually paying it off, that will make them pay that for 400 months. So if you pay $12.50 towards $5,000, it'll take you 400 months to pay that off. 400 months, that equates to, you'll see, I don't even have to tell you, I was about to get into the math. So your sentencing, and the reason why we call it a sentencing is because it's almost like you are sentenced. It's like being in bondage to this credit card if you're not careful based on how the interest is calculated. So your sentencing is 400 months divided by 12 gives you the amount of years, which is 33 years. So this is how a person can be in credit card debt for ever if they're not careful. And this is just an example of someone who has a $5,000 credit card bill. We know people who have, you know, a lot more than that. We've had more than that before. So definitely we understand firsthand how this can be a trap if you're not careful, which is why we stress the importance of keeping that utilization 9% or less, because you minimize the chances of this being your scenario, this being your situation. 33 years that you're paying on a card balance that was only $5,000. So this is what the bank earns, and this ought to make you mad right here. And if this makes you mad, put it in the comments like, yeah, that pissed me off. I'm going to go pay my credit card out now, because this is what you got to understand. You want to get rid of that consumer debt as soon as possible, you know, on your journey, you know, as it relates to your journey to being wealthy and having cash flow and debt elimination, whatever your ultimate goal is. But the bank earns $87.50 every time you pay it. So that's $87.50 a month times 400 months, which is that 33 years. They earn $35,000. $35,000. I have to say that with closing my eyes, because that's insane, knowing that the balance that you owe was only $5,000. They earn $35,000 if you continue to pay your credit cards off in this way. This is how credit card interest is calculated. This is why a lot of times people find themselves buried in credit card debt. And let's fill in those blanks. This is why we call this the credit catastrophe, or the credit card catastrophe, as I should have titled it. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own something in advance that you cannot afford. That you cannot afford. So in other words, you're paying a penalty to own something right now by using your credit card, because obviously in the eyes of how the game is played, you can't afford it at that time. So make sure when you're spending your credit card, it's money that you can pay off right then and there, or at that end of the week, or very soon, so you don't find yourself in this scenario right here. This is the credit card catastrophe, and this is how credit card interest is calculated. So hopefully that helps. Let me know if this was an eye-opener for you as it was for me when I was first exposed to this information, so that way you can take full advantage of understanding how to best position yourself in terms of having the best credit score and not getting caught into the credit card catastrophe. That's all I got for this video. Be sure to grab your free credit class by clicking the link available below, so you can take full advantage of the free credit class and apply it to your situation and take your credit from where it is now to where you want it to go. Mr. Smith, signing out. Salute.